Hooked. What's up, guys? We have a couple pro staffers on the show today, all the way from out in Colorado, coming on. Just talk to them about their year. Some cool stories got coming up. Stick around. Guys, what is up? We got Matt Collins.
What's up, Jonathan?
Wave for him. That way they know we don't get mixed up with Matt.
This one.
And then we got Matt Flanagan. These are the Colorado boys, part of the pro staff for 2024. Excited to have them on there. Guys, let's jump into it. Let's talk about you guys, talk about your year and whatnot. But let's start with you, Matt Flanagan. Let's talk about, where you're from in Colorado. And that way kind of guys know where you're at. And then let's just talk a little bit about your fishing season. How's it going for you, man?
Sure. I'm in Arvada, Colorado, just outside of Denver, like 10 minutes north of Denver. So basically Denver area. I've been here since 95. I'm originally from the East Coast. Season's going good. I actually saw you at the very beginning of my season out at first the championship at 10 Killer, and then I saw you at Possum Kingdom, right? Were you at Possum Kingdom?
No, I was definitely at the Classic. I went to that, hung out for that with some of the guys, but
yeah, I did see a few of the guys at Possum Kingdom, Jake and Ryan and whatnot. Yeah, okay, so I couldn't remember if you were there. But yeah, so I had a good finish at Possum Kingdom, my first ever National Texas event. I think I finished 15th or 16th. Locally, it's been all right. I've had a few top 10 finishes, no wins yet though, so got a few left though. My favorite lake coming up in a couple weeks, so that's where it's going to be the turnaround, the end of the season turnaround.
Yeah, man. What lake are you headed to?
Keith Sebelius in Norton, Kansas.
Oh wow.
Western Kansas, but it's a small lake, but it's a really cool little lake. One of the first places I used to go when I first got my kayak, so it's one of my favorite spots for sure.
Well, cool, man. Tell us what are you fishing out of right now?
A native Slayer Max 12.5.
I have heard good things about those boats. I've heard they're a great brand. Have you always fished out of that, or kind of where'd you start at?
I started with a native Slayer Propel 10, and then I stepped up to the 12. The 10 served me well, actually. A lot of people they think the 10's not enough for tournament fishing, whatnot. I thought it was awesome. I loved it. It was super stable for a 10-footer. But I just felt like I needed a little bit more room. So I stepped up to the 12.5. I'm loving it so far. Although I do car top mine, I don't have a trailer or a truck. I'm a minivan warrior, and I car top mine. And that extra 20 pounds, going from 65 pounds to 85 pounds, makes a difference when you're 52. So yeah. I'm not enjoying car topping it on a minivan anymore, but it's all right. At least it's not a Titan or a Hobie PA14 or something.
Yeah, for sure. It was really cool running into you out there at the Classic. And I know I talked to you. I'm like, where are you staying at? He's like, well, right there in my minivan for right now, but we got a place that we're going to and whatnot. So it was cool seeing you and running into you in the waters. It's always fun. Like, we've got guys across the U.S., from Colorado. I mean, we've got guys in North Carolina, South Carolina, we got a ton of Missouri guys, but it was really cool running into you after just getting on with the pro staff. And
yeah, it was cool to meet a bunch of guys. I mean, who was there? Marty was there.
Marty
were both there.
Jake and Ryan. I stayed with Drew Gregory and them at their house.
Lance crushes it. Every time I'm in a tournament with Lance, he crushes it.
Yeah,
he's a machine.
He's a hammer. Well, that's cool, man. Well, Matt Collins, let's jump over to you, man. Where are you at in Colorado, man?
I'm in Colorado Springs. I'm a transplant. I've only lived here since 2021. I think I moved out here. I'm originally from Illinois, but I've kind of lived all over the states in the military. So, in Colorado Springs, I'm out of a Old Town AutoPilot 136. The big boy.
You're definitely not car topping that one.
I'm not car topping it. Just got a new trailer for it. It's sick. Let's see, what else was there? There's a couple clubs out here in Colorado that I fish. So I fished the Colorado Kayak Fishing Club, which is a nonprofit. They have a multi-species, which is kind of unique to Colorado, and then they have a bass trail as well. And then they have Colorado Kayak Bass Masters. That's the one that's going to Kansas, Matt was talking about. So those are the trails I'm doing here. Outside of that, I think I met you at the All-American Classic.
Yeah,
I was
man.
like a 16th of an inch from cashing a check there. Had 4 fish. Fifth one really would have helped, but the rain stopped, and so did my bite. But no, it's been a fun season. We fished a trail, the Colorado Kayak Bass Masters. Although it's Colorado, there's some better fisheries in some other places. So there's a tournament up in Nebraska that we did. What was that, McCook, Nebraska? Or
Yep.
Yeah. Red Willow. So I took 4th the first day. It was 2 days, and then I won the second day. So I'm doing good in AOI points on that trail. The other ones, I've kind of been working a little bit too much, but yeah, we're still up in AOI contention on that one. So I just got to take it from Matt in Kansas. So
Not happening, son.
and also talking about Matt, so Matt's van has a name, the Flanagan, and it's pretty. It's a legend in Colorado. You see that thing roll up.
Yeah. Well, these guys are sweating their asses off in tents. I'm sitting in the van in air conditioning with my memory foam mattress. Yeah. They're jealous.
So one thing, so my parents live in Alamosa, Colorado, so down there in the valley south, so I was down there for Christmas, and I got on Tourney X, and I was like, what's out here in Colorado? Like, is there a kayak club, is whatnot? And I started looking at it, and one thing I thought was really cool is there was one club that I was looking at, and I don't remember which one it was, but they did 2-day events, but one day was like bass, and then the next day was like, so it was Saturday, Sunday, and the next day was multi-species, which it's really cool because you don't see, like, besides bass, you don't see like a lot of, like, I don't know if there's any crappie trails in kayaks or whatnot, which it probably is, but just don't see it as much or whatever. But I thought it was really cool. Flanagan, like, break us down like how that multi-species tournament kind of works.
Well, Collins is actually a better one to talk on this. He's on the board for that club, and he does more of the multi-species. But no, it's basically depending on the lake we go to, they choose the species. So like some of the mountain lakes, like Spinney and 11 Mile, they're like gold medal trout lakes, but they also have pike. So it'll be like 3 trout and 2 pike. You got to get. Then other places like Trinidad, where we're going this weekend, actually, amazing walleye lake. So I don't even know what are the species for Trinidad, Collins?
Yeah, so Trinidad's this weekend, so it's multi on Saturday, and then Sunday there's a bass tournament, which the bass guys will complain because their fish are gonna get beat up. But yeah, it's it's bass, walleye, and then your third species is one of the following. It's crappie, perch, or trout.
Okay.
So it's those 3. A variation, I think, 3 walleye, 2 bass, and then one of the last one.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, there's awesome walleye in there. I caught a 28-inch walleye in there earlier this season. So there's some big ones in there.
I always seem to catch big trout there when I'm in the bass tournament.
Yeah.
Super annoying, but yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of my next question is, like, are you guys changing up your tactics as far as like chasing after those fish? Like, are you just throwing conventional bass stuff and hoping for something else?
It really depends on the body of water, because I love it because that I'm on the board for it, Colorado Kayak Fishing Club, but it's a nonprofit. So at the end of the day, those proceeds are going, like this year it's going to Cast for Kids. So they're just going to take kids with special needs out fishing with the money. So we've done like veteran organizations, Boys and Girls Clubs, stuff like that. Last year we donated, I want to say like $7 or $8 grand to something else at the end of the year. But that's kind of the heart of it. So I say that because you can take somebody that's like really into bass fishing and take them up to like Spinney and 11 Mile, and you can bass fish for giant pike and trout with like a chatterbait or whatever you like to bass fish with. You know, if you want to throw top water, there's going to be guys out there with a fly rod that'll whoop your butt, but it's still like for a good cause, and it's a fun trail. But yeah, I like that aspect of it. You know, like you got to time it too, because the bite might die off, and you got to figure out which species you want to go after first. And usually it's that trout that kind of gets people on the last one. They're chasing a trout for the last 3 hours of the day, trying to get that on the board. But it's cool. I mean, some of the, like what the places Matt was talking about, there's a tournament we did a full charity tournament earlier this year between those two lakes, and you could kind of, we split the lake, so half got the first day on whatever lake and the second half on the other, and we just split it up, split it on the second day.
10 minutes apart. They're right next to each other, but they're both amazing trout.
But we had guys on there catching 26-inch trout, followed by like a 24-inch trout, and they fight harder than any bass. It's insane. And then pike, I think our longest catch board is 32 inches or something that we've got for our club. So you'll see several 32-inch pike, but they're really like 40 inches plus out there that people are catching. So it's a really cool thing to have, in addition to the bass fishing. And I love it. You always hear grow the sport. It does grow the sport of kayak fishing out here, because you're getting into whatever you're into. If you grew up just wanting to catch some trout, or if that's your thing and you just want to go do the mountain thing, you can do that. If you want to go do the bass thing, you can 100% go do that as well.
That's cool, man. I know here, like Missouri, we do, Moyak's like the bigger club here. We do, onlines. We do, the monthly or whatever. We do the live event, team event. They also do a river series and river team series as well. So that's kind of cool. Where kind of the same idea is like, hey, these guys, everybody starts on the river typically on a kayak. It's typically where they're starting at. Like, I know that's where I did. But it's cool getting, more of those options for people. Not everybody likes bass fish, even though it's the best thing ever. Like, but that's cool that you guys are doing some multi-species stuff, getting out there. Earlier, I think it was last year, and you guys probably deal with this too. JT took his Van Hunk, and he drug it on the ice, and then he was fishing out of like the little pod for the thing. So I'm sure I don't know how much ice fishing you guys deal with, but I know, like, when I was in Colorado for wintertime, like, we went up to the mountains and the lake was like frozen over. But like, JT being up in Minnesota, he probably deals with that ice stuff too. But I bet the fun, like, I bet it's a Fast and Furious season for you guys, a little bit shorter and whatnot.
I can't believe it's almost over. It's making me sad.
Yeah, it's already like you wake up and it's sweatshirt weather in the morning and at night here, so it's writing's on the wall.
I tried to get Collins out on the ice last year. He still hasn't made it out.
I have so many.
You've been ice fishing. I'll go like maybe 2 or 3 times a year. I'm not huge into it, but couldn't get him out there.
I'll drive south. It's fine. Yeah. In Pueblo, where we're at, that lake doesn't really freeze over, so I'll be out there all winter long, unless it's like
that was
a blizzard out there. Because it was like
actually. Oh, sorry. I didn't go ice fishing much because he kept telling me, "Come down to Pueblo. Pueblo's open water." I was like, "All right, let's go bass fishing in the middle of winter." Sure.
Dodge all the waterfowl hunters out there, and you're good. So
hey, to be fair, if you drag a kayak out there, if you go through, you're just floating anyways.
I had never thought about that.
No, I wanted to see what we could do with a fishing kayak, and the amount of looks I got from the hardcore Minnesotans up here was probably worth it in the end anyways. And hey, I caught trout. That's what I went out and caught doing it. So that's
actually pretty. I mean, you got your seat there, you got your hole where your drive goes.
Yeah, I was comfortable.
You pull it just like I've got a giant sled for all my gear anyway.
Did you keep your electronics on your kayak?
I did.
You could just sit there. That's awesome.
Yeah, I dropped the transducer right through the fin drive hole.
Dude, that is so sick.
I know. I might do it again. I mean, really, I was sitting in a nice comfy seat. I was off the ice.
Yeah.
Pull it right into the shack. No. All right. Well, I just popped in to defend my own. I thought I was getting made fun of.
No, they do have a. Go ahead.
I was thoroughly impressed. I was like, "This is so funny." I saw the reel, and I was like, "This is hilarious!" Like,
awesome,
I'm sure you got some looks, and it was like, "What in the world is this guy doing?" Like, that
you got to find ways to have fun in the winter. You got to get creative.
Only a Minnesotan or maybe a Canadian would have to think of that.
Minnesota's, we're Canada light.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing.
Collins, I know you had a pretty crazy experience earlier this year. I know you're a huge advocate for water safety, PFDs, all that good stuff, being prepared. Here at the shop, it's a paddle and life jacket. Those are the first two things. Like, hey, what do I need? You need a paddle and life jacket. And but talk about that. I know we've got some clips that we can probably put in here and share some of that as well, and whatnot. But tell us kind of about that story and what happened, man.
Yeah. So I'm a huge advocate for just beyond safety, just being prepared for situations that can happen. And out in Colorado, it's going to happen a lot out here. The wind picks up out of nowhere, especially up in the mountains, where every year you'll hear several people, they flip their kayaks, and you're talking, the most stable kayaks out there. It doesn't matter what brand it is. You can flip it out here because you'll be talking, it's slick calm, and then 5 minutes later, you're like, I can't even get off the water. It's that bad. But I was out at Pueblo Reservoir earlier this year, and I always check the weather. That's one of the things that I'm always big. I like Windy as a weather app to check out, and it was reporting like nothing all day. And Windy out here has kind of become a little less reliable than it was last year for me. But I'll also check as I'm a pilot. I'll check with the different airports that are around as well and see what they're reporting. So if you can learn how to do that, it's another technique. But the wind just kind of came out of nowhere. And, this is kind of like a pleasure boat lake for Colorado. A lot of people kind of hanging out on the shores with different paddle boards and stuff. And there was a little island tucked between the shore and myself, and it was breaking those waves. So I just kind of tucked there. I was checking the weather to see, hey, is this going to pass real quick? Because it was getting pretty gnarly. I was kind of just stuck out there. So I knew I could just hug up on that island. I'd be okay. And I had the autopilot on, so I was just kind of spot locked there. And I hear this guy scream behind me. He's like, hey, yo. And I was like, okay, that's weird. So I look back and I see a kayak with like 3 people on it. And, this is like, your Walmart special, Sun Dolphin, whatever, Nobody's got a life jacket on. It's 2 guys and a girl. And I was like, well, they're closer to the shore than me. They were maybe like 50 yards from the shore. I'm like, they can get back, right? So I was like, are you okay? And then I realized that there was a guy in the water that was screaming, and that was the person that was actually screaming for me. So I go and I get him, and I tell him, like, hey, there's a motor, like, just be careful about that. I have him hold on, which after doing this, I wouldn't do that again. I'd probably just toss him a rope, because I've heard now people kind of getting that tipping motion, and now you got a bigger problem if I would have gone over with him. But I got him to shore, and then he was just kind of okay. He was gassed, and then I look out there and I'm like, these guys aren't moving anywhere, and I couldn't tell like why, but they were definitely just stuck out there. And the girl's face kind of said it. I was like, okay, I got to go back out there. So in my front hatch of my autopilot, I'm a big advocate for this. Whatever your hatch is, put some safety stuff in there. I like to have a carabiner with a rope. I use it for launching my kayak, but just in case I need to throw it out to somebody, I've got it. But also have it easily accessible. So like the waves were beating my kayak up, but I clip that carabiner to the loop on the actual lid. So as soon as I lift the lid up, I can just grab it. I don't have to reach around in the hole. So I grabbed that. I went back out. I threw them the rope. I think they got it the second time, and I pulled all 3 of them in. And then shortly after that, the Rangers came, but they were pretty smoked by the time I got out there. And it's, my big thing is like this, the weather is probably our biggest safety consideration out there. Things can happen with like the odds of a boat running into me on the water, like that can happen. You've seen like boaters just do stupid things, but the odds of the weather kicking up is a lot more likely. And also the odds of someone else being unprepared and you needing the help is probably even greater than having to take care of yourself. Like the guys that are guys and gals that are like watching this, like if they're into like kayak fishing, they probably already have a PFD and hopefully and like safety lights and all this stuff. But I would say go a little bit further and have the stuff to help, you know, the people that you might have to rescue out there. But yeah, that's pretty much the story.
Yeah, man, it's always tough, like, because people are like, well, I've got a life jacket, and you know, it's good and all. Make sure you have it, you know, at least have it on the kayak, you know. But like those kayak ones are made that way you can be comfortable. You know, you can, you know, we've done a video on them and talked about them. You know, that way you're not just like, I don't want to wear this stupid thing because it's uncomfortable. I'm fidgeting. I'm not, you know. But like, you know, find that one that you like. You know, spend a little more money. Like, you know, if the budget's not in there, like step down on a kayak. You know, but the other thing is like when it's summertime and it's stupid hot and it's super calm, like test the range, the stability of your actual kayak. Like take it out there dry one time and try and flip it. Like try and, you know, do all this stuff. And that way you kind of know, like, it sounds kind of stupid, but like if you do flip your kayak, like, is it one of those things where like I'm going to be able to get it back over and go? Or is it like, it's life or death? Like forget my kayak. I'm going to, you know, figure out how to get back. But it's stuff that you can do like on your own on those calm days. Like you can get in some shallow water. Like don't take all your rods and rails and your tackles and everything. Like that's a whole different scenario, but like get out there and figure it out. You know, the one cool thing about doing, you know, having kayaks here at the shop and being right by like the Ozarks is we can take people on demos. So I love it when the guy comes, he's like, I brought my swimming trunks today. I was like, good. I said, that's good. You know, I'm glad you prepared. You know, we had a guy do it at the end. He goes, all right, it's getting hot. I'm going to flip this thing and just really see. And he did it. And he's like, he tried a couple times to flip it back over. It was a crescent shoalie and just kind of struggled. He's like, well, I know that I can get back in it and do this. He said, but like, I don't like that rope. A rope comes in huge when you flip your kayak over, because you can use that rope as leverage, you know, tie it to one of those middle handles or whatever and step on it and use that as leverage to get back in the kayak, different stuff like that. So, you know, if you have a local shop that you can demo, like ask them, be like, hey, I want to flip this kayak. Like if they say no to you, like that's kind of crazy. Like it's a demo, like let them flip it, figure it out. And that way they know kind of how to get back in. I you know, we've had, fortunately, like a couple guys do that, but we've had one guy like fall out. And he just got off to one side a little bit and he had a little bit of wake and he went in and the kayak didn't flip over. And he's like, I'm kind of impressed. You know, I was like, do you know how to get back in? And it's like, you know, get your belly in the bottom of the kayak, you know, and then, you know, roll over to your butt and do stuff like that. And just stuff like that. I don't think it's like hey, I need to practice this 2-3 times a year, but just know, like, you know, make a plan for that. Like Angler Aid makes a really cool first aid kit that's in a tackle box that you can throw in your kayak that, you know, say you get a hook in you or something like that or whatever, like you have that stuff and kind of be prepared. But a lot of people don't think about that when it comes to kayaking. So like, you know, kudos for you to be in there and helping out. And I'm sure it helps having a motor and whatnot. But, you know, another point that you brought up too is like, you know, you kind of know your limits on the kayak and how you can actually help them, you know, like, you know, sometimes they get to you and they're freaking out and be like, hey, I need you to calm down. We'll get you. But like, let's not flip both of us. So it's you know, something that people don't think about when they go to help people.
How do you feel about inflatables? Inflatable PFDs.
So I wear one and I wear it because I don't like the bulkiness of like the NRS. I want to love the NRS and I want to be able to put everything in my pockets and have it. And that's something we talked about, like check your PFD. Like that should be like, if you've got an inflatable, you need to make sure. I think the ones that get wet are probably the best. Because it's kind of like everyone uses the regular PFD because if you get knocked out, if something happens, whatever, you're still going to float. Like I think the automatic ones, I think the manual ones are a little bit more risky. I love mine. But like I said, like I really want to like the NRS, but I'm a little bit around around the midsection, so it gets kind of snug when I'm trying to lean over and do all this stuff, and I'm working on that. But I think the regular, like, you know, the kayak versions are probably the best bet for most people. I think that's a great starting spot to go. And like I said, you know, spend a little bit more money on that life jacket. You're definitely gonna spend more when you go towards inflatable, but it may be one of those comfort things. Flanagan, what do you use for life jacket?
NRS Chinook. I did try an inflatable. I first got not a cheap PFD, but a low. It was like maybe 60, 70 bucks. You know, it had all the pockets and stuff, but it wasn't an NRS. And I got kind of sick of that. And then I got the inflatable, and it was okay. It was more comfortable for sure. But then I was like, you know what? I don't know. It's something I was like, I want one that's just always going to be there. And the Chinook, I love it. Like, it's super comfortable. Like you said, I love having all the pockets, being able to have my phone right there on a tether. And I don't even notice it anymore. I mean, hot days, of course, anything's going to suck, but I would never even consider getting on my kayak without it. It's just not an option. I mean, like Colin said, it's insane the number of, like Horsetooth or Pueblo are two big pleasure boater lakes. It's crazy the amount of paddle boarders we'll see out on the water in big choppy water, life vest, if we're lucky, sitting on the front of their board. It's just like, dude, what are you doing, man? It's crazy. But yeah, I love the Chinook.
And I mean,
it's the best.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it's the best helicopter ever made as well.
Well, yeah, that's.
I fly Chinooks, so.
But yeah, like a lot of even those paddleboarders, sometimes they leave them on their deck and they don't even realize it. Like it's floated off, and then they're like, you know, you're screwed at that point.
That's my wife. I've had to get on her several times about that. I'm like, so you didn't have your life vest on? She's like, well, it was right there. I'm like, did you have your leash on? She's like, no. I'm like, you didn't even have your leash on. So if you get knocked off and there's any current, your board's gone. Like, you got nothing. Yeah. And I think I finally broke her of that habit. So.
Yeah, and you know, the other thing with inflatables too is, like, I've had it, and fortunately I had a backup, but like I was launching, it was super dark. I threw my inflatable on my net on the kayak, and then I parked my truck. Well, as soon as I grabbed my net, my inflatable went in the water, and it was an automatic one, and it's, you know, it just fills up. And I'm like, I'm so glad that I had a backup. Like, I hated the regular backup life jacket that day, but I was like, I'm screwed for a tournament. Like, and then, you know, God forbid somebody, you know, you go out there without it, that's even more shame, you know. Yeah. Someone seeing you with no life jacket fishing a tournament, and it's like, so that could really, you know, screw up your day. But no, for sure, I love the NRS Chinook. I want to wear it. I want to have the pockets, the phone in, the tether, the pliers, the whatever, you know, the knife. The knife is kind of a nice thing to have, you know, on there as well. I just haven't. Probably wintertime is when I'll wear it more. Because I mean, it is colder, so you're going to be a little bit bulkier anyways, but it's definitely one of those things that you probably need to have.
We had a guy out here that's kind of, in Colorado, the water still is cold here even now. Like, we don't hit that 80-degree water like the rest of the country gets. So in June, like up in Spinney, you can still get 50-degree water, you know, where these trout are and stuff. But we had a guy, it was pretty close to ice off early spring up in the mountains. The water's probably 34 degrees. He flipped his kayak, and he had one of the activated by water ones, and it opened up, and it got caught on his pedal drive and kept him underwater for way longer than he wanted to be. And he was also going hypothermic by the time that the boat got to him. So yeah, I agree. I think you just got to know your equipment, you know. And then I also, like you said, carrying an extra life jacket after I had that incident, it's a lot easier for me just to chuck out a little burner. So that's something I do now. I just keep like a cheaper, you know, like one that they'd have under the seats on a boat or something. Keep something like that in that I can toss out. But yeah, in the wintertime, plus it keeps you a little warmer. But yeah, that's also specific to here. If I'm down in, you know, Florida or something, I don't care, you know.
Yeah.
Before we get off the safety stuff, talking about flipping kayaks or practicing flipping, I never have. I probably should. But one thing I've always wondered about, I feel like if I, just my kayak, like you said, taking it out dry, I feel like I could get the leverage to get it back over. With a full black pack and a short stack on top of it, am I going to get that thing over, or am I better off just cutting the black pack loose?
That's a tough one. Like, I think the hard part is the time that it's flipped over.
Okay.
Because that the black packs, they're not waterproof. They're going to fill up with water. They're going to take on that stuff. Now, is that going to be enough to like make it heavier? But the nice part about that is like, your kayak's probably on the more stable side where, you're going to fall out. You may not flip that. Like, you're going to have to do something really stupid, like take on a big wave sideways, do something like that.
Which
at that point, you don't care about that black pack. You're more like, life or death kind of deal. But I do think there's enough leverage there. I think those, I think it's going to take some effort, but it's getting up and across and then getting leverage on there, whether it's a handle or something else, and getting it pulled back over. So I do think, but I think the time is the thing. I think you've got to be, have a plan, kind of know what you're doing, and go, and do it pretty quickly. But like I've never done it in my Hobie either, but like it's one of those things. It's like the Hobie, the Unlimiteds, the Old Towns, the Natives, like they're super stable. Like a lot of people don't realize, like, I would be more concerned with like a Shoaly, more a Jackson, that's going to be more of a river boat. You need to, like, your odds of flipping one of those is going to be higher. And that's all, that all comes in like where you're fishing and whatnot too. What kind of boat you want, whether you want a big lake boat or a river boat, different stuff like that. But I definitely think it's doable. I think it's just like the time issue. Like if it's been sitting there for a while, it's going to be pretty tough. Cause I mean, even the kayak's going to start filling up with some water. Because none of those hatches are watertight and all that. So
I was just wondering about that, if I'd be able to pull it over with the black pack still on there. I don't know. Hopefully I never have to find out. We'll see.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Although we did have a guy go over this season out in Nebraska. Wind came up crazy on us right when we were supposed to head in for lines out, and a guy it was actually in a Titan, flipped a Titan. That's how bad.
Titan X, like
Titan X, Titan X. That's how bad it was, and you can actually see it in my video from that tournament. But I was coming in and I was white knuckling, had the motor on the 100. I was, for most of the ride, I was going into the wind. But then when I had to make the turn to get to the ramp, that's when they were broadsiding me. And then I saw a flipped over kayak. I was like, oh shit! But then I looked and there was a pontoon boat close by. They had our guy on it. I knew who it was, so I just hightailed it and like you said, it's like, all right, do I stop and help? Well, then maybe they're pulling out two guys instead of just the one. So I was like, no, let me just get to shore, then we'll deal with it. Because I saw that he was already safe on the pontoon boat. So it's like, I'm not going to do any good by stopping. I might just make it worse. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
JT, man, you got any questions for these guys? I know you popped in here earlier, but I know you're, maybe you have some outside the box thinking that I don't think about.
No, I just think the last 15 minutes of talking about water safety has been super on point. I just published a blog today with like 8 tips on water safety on our Eco Fishing Shop website, and you guys legitimately hit every single thing I did, and even I just put together a reel about, you check weather apps. I took my kids out. We were going to go to the lake and watch a water ski show. I thought seeing it from the lake would be really cool. Like, all the cool flips and stuff. Thought the kids would like it. The clouds were a little goofy, but it was moving the other way. The weather apps all said it was clear. The water ski show people obviously thought it was clear. And we got out there. And luckily, it was only like a half mile from the launch. And all of a sudden, they do a couple of flips off the jumps. I'm like, all right, so everyone's having fun. And then I could hear them announce, like, oh, we're postponing due to weather. And sure enough, I turned around and it was just clearly the white wall. You could see the clouds just rolling towards us. And it's just nothing but lightning flashes. And it just goes to show, like, we kind of hemmed and hawed before we launched, and just trust your gut in those situations, regardless of what your weather apps say. Sometimes I should have known better, and I could have had a good laugh about it because I got to the landing right as it like hit us. So I wasn't on the water in the lightning, but I had my 2 sons with too. So it was like, probably, you know, live and learn, right? But that could have got real bad. So yeah, no, like water safety, I'm learning, is way more important than some of your high tech accessories. Like some of the ones that matter the most are life jackets, like safety equipment, lights. So you're seeing a safety plan, letting people know your float plan before you go out, so that if you don't return at a certain time, at least somebody's there to like know that something could be goofy here. But that's you guys kind of nailed everything I talked about. I will call out Jonathan though, that I kind of think your guys' mixed fishing tournaments sound more like my speed. Pike and trout are my 2 favorite species.
Come on out.
I would like that. I think I would be way more interested in joining those tournaments than I will fight Jonathan about bass fishing being the best. Fighting a trout or a pike, man, it's different. You never know how big they are, especially with trout. You have no idea until you get them in.
Yeah,
I'm a bass guy too. I only do. Collins talked me into last year doing one, and I did another one this year. The one with the big pike and big trout, and I just threw my bass gear. I wasn't gonna go out and buy any little trout crap, so I was just.
I throw pretty big stuff for like river trout.
Yeah,
they're pretty aggressive, but yeah, they are a very frustrating species because they're finicky. I would probably, in those tournaments, my strategy would definitely be get those done first early.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's different too because they allow trolling for that trail off kayaks. So now you have, you know, a rigging system where you might rig completely differently, you know, one day to the next with trolling. But one thing I'd maybe add to the safety thing that we just didn't talk about was when the weather does get bad, kind of 2 things. One, I don't like to tell people my personal limit on like what the wind is or what the gusts are, because I just keep that to myself. I know what that number is, but kind of if you have a rough day out there where you're like, man, that was kind of like at the max for me, get on your weather app or try to note what the winds were. So that way, when you see them approaching that, you know, hey, do I really want to go out today or not? Or, hey, maybe by like 2 o'clock, it's going to pick up to above what I'm comfortable at. And then lastly, get to shore as soon as you can. So like, you know, coming in, I don't know if it would have helped on that situation where we had the guy flip, but I was out there on the water that day and I knew it was getting bad. I crossed the lake to another point, but I hugged the shoreline the entire way until I crossed, and then I hugged the shoreline again. So just try to, because like, let's say that you do flip it, even just from like your equipment standpoint and your safety, you're a lot better shape if you're like, you know, 20 feet from the shore than if you're out in 40 feet of water out here, you know, or deeper. So
yeah, I should have followed that advice too, because even we worked our way back, you know, and what was like heading right at the storm. But again, we were a quarter of a mile probably from the landing, but into the wind. And really what we could have done is just cut across the lake and went and grabbed a cold beverage at the bar and waited half an hour while, you know, just pull the kayaks up on shore and just go into the restaurant. Like there was better ways. Like definitely a learning. I don't know. In those situations, I just think trust your gut, get off the water.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It makes a world of difference too. Like, you know, Lake of the Ozarks is a prime example where there's a lot of boat traffic. You get some of these cruisers and they're like throwing some big waves. Prepare for those, because like if you're like, the other thing too is like if you know a storm's coming, like cool, like go to like into the storm, go, you know, directly away from it, kind of know those as well. Like if you're taking on some big, like if you're going into it, you're a lot better. Like even like with it behind you, like some of those waves can catch you and you're almost like surfing, because like I've been in that spot where it's like, what the heck, you know, you feel like you're like, am I surfing here? Am I surfing my kayak? Like
my motor was out of the water when I was coming back, because I had the waves coming behind me, just trying to get to the boat ramp after I helped those guys out. And I'd come up and I'd ride it and I could hear the motor coming out of the water. I was like, this is not cool, because then at that point I don't have control like I did before. Thank God the rudder, I have a good rudder, but yeah.
That's what got our guy in the Titan X. It got him from behind, because if you're going into it, you got an idea. If you're side to side, you can sort of roll with it. It got him from behind and a little bit sideways, so it just
that's the worst.
I think you could do.
I think Greg Blanchard. They had a video where the waves were coming in. They were like in the ocean or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And that guy had same thing. Caught him, just enough that it's like, oh, you're screwed, But the other thing I think that a lot of kayakers that most of us have motors or fishing tournaments and whatnot, but we all have paddles, and a paddle is a great way to maybe run that motor, but a paddle is a great way to help with that. You're not always going to be able to have, if you're backing your kayaks up and you got a rudder, you're not gonna be able to steer it, because half the time it's out of the water. But realize you have a paddle with you and be able to correct that stuff, because a lot of times you can do that in a kayak still, whether it's a bigger one or a little one, and use that as kind of a way to balance yourself out. But no, good stuff here. I think a lot of people don't think about some of that stuff. They just want to get on the water and go fun fish or recreational or whatever, but kind of know that stuff, know your limits, err on the side of caution. But before we get off here, Matt Collins, Flanagan, I want you guys to shameless plug. Matt Collins, I want you to plug all your YouTube, your Instagram, your Facebook, whatever you got. I know you guys both do some YouTube content, but make sure and share that with us real quick and tell us about that stuff.
Yeah, right on. Matt Collins Fishing. You can pretty much find me there at Matt Collins Fishing for Instagram. I've got a Facebook page now, and YouTube. I got the new Fish Texas kayak trailer that I just got, so that's pretty cool. I just did a walkthrough of that in the autopilot on YouTube, so check that out. Other than that, big thanks to you guys over at Eco for supporting us. Old Town as well and their pro staff. True Patriot Outfitters, it's another organization out here in Colorado. Just give a shout out to. They take veterans, first responders, and active duty members out on guided kayak fishing trips. So really cool organization I get to work with there. But besides that, just the family for letting me go out and chase fish around in plastic boats. Pretty cool.
Flanagan?
Yeah, mine's also super original name, Matt Flanagan Fishing. On YouTube is the big one that I like to do a lot. I'm also on Instagram, Matt Flan Jr. Fishing. Matt Flan Jr. Fishing. But yeah, YouTube is a big one. It's a little bit deceptive. If you look at my page, you'll think I'm a big shot because I have 20,000 subscribers. But that's very misleading because I had a completely unrelated not fishing video, a little short, go insane viral, like 25 million views viral. And so that's where like 19.5 thousand of those subscribers came from. So I have 20,000 subscribers and my videos get like 400 or 500 views. So it's silly. It's crazy. So don't get all, when you go to my page, you'd be like, oh my God, this guy's a big shot. No. Yeah. 20,000 subscribers, like 19.5 of them don't care about my fishing content. So.
I always tell JT, I always tell him, he's asking me about stuff and trailer stuff. I'm like, fake it till you make it, man. Just keep doing it,
Well, here's the dumbest thing. The video, I was at a skate park and there was a rat stuck in one of the big bowls. So I whipped out my phone and this guy was in the bowl. He had a broom trying to get the rat out. He brushed the rat out and jumped up when everybody's cheering, yay! Then it jumped right into the next bowl and everybody's like, oh! 25 million views.
It's that easy.
Yeah. Never know.
Oh, that's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
Now I'm doing this wrong.
Go to a skate park and find a rat stuck in a bowl. 25 million views.
You think the rat would follow up and come on the kayak with you? And then...
I wish, dude. I'm trying.
You could get it to try and flip a kayak back over in the water.
I spend hours and hours on fishing videos, multiple cameras, editing, 500 views if I'm lucky.
Yep.
A random rat at a skate park, 25 million. It's insane.
That's cool, guys. Well, really seriously appreciate you guys coming on here. Excited for Colorado. It sounds like you guys got a good start there. Good club, good group of guys. So glad to have you guys part of the pro staff as well. Guys, reach out to these guys. You guys have any questions, concerns, anything, they'd be glad to help you out. You know, if you guys are in Colorado and you know these guys, we always, you know, even here at Eco, we always recommend, hey, go to your local shop. If they can't, you know, find that color boat, whatever you're looking at, always reach out to Eco Fishing Shop. We'd gladly help you guys out. Of course, Hooked, the Kayak Anglers Resource.com. You guys can get on there. Do any of the forum stuff. The forum's really, really cool. You don't have to worry about all this Facebook nonsense, all this, you know, politics stuff, ads. It's just on there. Just talk kayak. You can be as specific or as general as you want, but it's really cool to get on there. But seriously, guys, appreciate you guys coming on. We're going to shut this one down if you guys will hang out just for a minute. But seriously, guys, check these guys out. Again, Hook, the Kayak Anglers Resource. We're glad to help you out with all your kayaking needs. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.